Testing is the unsung hero of software development. It's not just about finding bugs, it's about constantly improving your code, your processes, even the way you solve problems. In this video, we're going to be looking at the importance of testing in the current landscape of software development. We'll cover key principles of effective testing, and also we share some tips on how to introduce testing into your team. But here's the thing. If you don't test your software, someone else will. And trust me, you don't want that someone else to be your user. So whether you're a developer, product manager, or just someone interested in software development in general, this video is for you. So without further ado, let's dive into the rest of the video. Let's go. Welcome back to the Semaphore channel. I'm Fernando, and today we're going to be talking about testing. Specifically, how to introduce testing into your company. Testing provides sort of a safety net around your code that allows you to refactor safely your code. Refactoring can refresh the code base, making it more flexible. Flexible software, in turn, allows for much faster creation or addition of new features, in the end, benefiting the business. But when I say testing, I'm not just talking about software testing. That's not to say that non-automated testing is not important. On the contrary, but what I mean is to foster an exploratory mindset and test different solutions for the same problem. We should go outside of the technical aspects of testing and engage in discussions with other areas of the company, just outside of the development team. Non-technical people can bring a fresh set of insights and new ideas into the table. In the end, they have knowledge that you don't. The question then that we need to ask is, how do we introduce testing and automation into our company? There are many ways to do this, and there are three principles that can help in this regard: viewing, measuring, and improving. Viewing is essentially that visualizing the current state of our projects, goals, tasks, issues. We can use physical boards, TV screens. We can view statistics and even activity in our continuous integration boards. We can see how often we release. We can see how many times failing tests essentially disrupt our releases, or how the state of our site is. The important thing of this idea is to become aware. This is us. This is our current state. This is the bigger picture. That's how you have to tackle this concept. Now, in terms of measuring, being aware obviously is important because it lets you prioritize the actions that you have to take. We can only improve something or fix important problems once we're aware of them. Now, what we want is to measure. That means getting hard numbers, counter wins and losses. We need to decide what is hurting us. Maybe we have too many issues in the backlog, or maybe there are too many tickets coming in at a faster rate than we can process them. Maybe we just have too many problems deploying updates. In other words, we want hard call analytics. So essentially at this stage, the measuring stage, we get to decide what to measure and how to measure it. We again need to tackle hard call numbers. In this stage, if you will, we go from the subjective to the objective, and then we go into improvement. Now, with hard data, we can plan some changes. We can think about what we need to do. We should take an experimental mindset. For example, let's say you have too many deployment problems. Hey, look at that. We can start with the hypothesis that we don't have enough end-to-end tests in our suite, for example. This will guide our next actions. We take these actions and measure again. Being aware is important because it lets us prioritize our actions. Nah, actually, I'm just kidding. If we see an improvement after these actions, then we double down and continue down this path. If we don't see an improvement, then we need another hypothesis and start again. In the end, if we just think of testing in technical terms, then we're just limiting ourselves. We have to think outside the technical box, if you will. Now, let's look at what you can do to help introduce the concept and mindset of testing in your team. First, assess your testing maturity. Evaluate the current state of testing in your team. Identify the gaps of testing practices, tools, and knowledge. Determine which types of testing you're currently performing, either unit tests, integration tests, end-to-end tests, or whatever type. Make sure you identify them. And finally, assess the team's understanding of testing principles and best practices. Make sure everyone, essentially at this stage, make sure that everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing and what they're doing currently. Then evaluate your testing tools. Research popular testing tools, framework. specifically for your tech stack. Consider tools for different types of testing. Remember, you have unit tests, integration tests, performance tests, load tests. I mean, there are way too many options here. And because there are so many, there are also a lot of different tools for different jobs. Look into test management tools to organize your tests, organize your test suites, and understand what you're doing and what kind of results you're getting. And finally, start researching about continuous integration tools that support automating testing. Now, experiment with the tools to find the best solution. Set up some POCs, some proof of concepts to try out different tools. Involve your team, obviously, in these experiments so they're also aware and they can give you feedback about the process. Compare tools based on ease of use, feature compatibility, integration capabilities, essentially everything that makes your lives easy and the tool powerful. Make sure you have that in mind. And finally, consider the learning curve of these tools and the kind of support that they have behind them. You don't want to start using a tool that no one's maintaining even. So make sure that whatever you go with has a community behind it or an enterprise type of solution that has a paid support, some SLAs, something that gives you certainty that if you need it, it'll be there. Now it's time to start marketing your solution to the rest of the team, not only your tech team, but the rest of the companies, because in the end you need everyone's buy-in. For this, you can prepare presentations or demos showcasing the benefits of the chosen tools, highlight how these tools or these testing methodologies can improve the code quality and in the end reduce bugs essentially. Demonstrate how you're saving time through automation and early bug detection, and finally show how testing can improve the confidence on any code changes that your team is doing. Then you move on to establishing automation. Start small. Start with automating unit tests for new and existing code. Gradually introduce integration and end-to-end testing. Set up automated test runs as part of the development process on their developers' local machines, and create guidelines for everyone to write the tests in the same way, following the same best practices. Then, as the next step is automation. Test, build, and deploy often. Now it's time to start implementing your continuous integration pipeline. Configure the automated tests to run on these pipelines. Set up notifications for failed deployments. Automate the deployment process, obviously, for different environments, staging, production, however many environments you have. Implement feature flags to safely deploy new features without causing immediate breaking changes. And finally, set up monitoring and rollback mechanisms in case you need them. This is crucial because once you have everything automated, deployments happen very fast and sometimes even without you noticing. So make sure that if there is a problem that your team or your users are picking up on immediately after a deploy, you can roll back. And now, like we said before, measure and improve. Once you have everything working, define key metrics for your testing performance. For example, code coverage, bug detection rate, and other similar metrics. Set up dashboards to clearly visualize these metrics and pick up on trends and so on. And regularly review the metrics with your team and stakeholders so that everyone's aware of them. And use this data to identify areas of improvements so that you can prioritize testing much faster. Now it's time to create and grow a testing culture. Finally, essentially encourage a testing first mindset among every developer in the company. Recognize and reward these good testing practices. Make sure to include testing related tasks when you're doing sprint planning, when you're doing estimations for new features. And also make code reviews and evaluations of test quality and coverage, not just of the main features, but also make sure that you cover also the tests in that process. Now, slowly start expanding your testing types. Now that you have a testing framework essentially for your company and everyone's aware of them and everyone understands the benefit, then start adding in more testing types. As you go along, start introducing more advanced testing techniques, essentially property-based testing, fuzzing, snapshot testing. There are a lot of different techniques. Slowly start introducing them into the framework that you create. Implement, obviously, security testing at this stage as part of the development process. There are tools that will automate that as well for you. So make sure that you test for security vulnerabilities in your code. Introduce performance and load testing for critical parts of the application, and consider usability and accessibility also when you're testing user-facing features. And finally, collaborate with other teams. Like this. Essentially, work with operations to ensure smooth test environment, collaborate with product management to define the acceptance criteria and test scenarios, partner with UX and UI teams to incorporate visual regression testing, and engage with customer support as well to prioritize the tests directly obtained from the users. Now, how do we talk about testing with non-technical people? Developers are used to terms like refactoring or technical debt. These are very abstract concepts that non-developers don't necessarily grasp. So it's important to articulate our ideas in plain English. This is not an easy thing to do, granted, but it's important because it allows for more people to understand the problems and contribute with ideas. It's also important because it also forces us to retest our preconceptions. The testing culture that we're trying to create here needs to go beyond your technical team. In the end, you have to test everything from the idea of a feature to the production code empowering that feature. This is one of the best ways, most effective ways, if you will, to reduce waste and maximize efficiency. Like it says there, right there. Yeah. Let's look at an example of how testing can be done from the definition to the actual implementation of a feature. When a customer is asking for a new feature, how would you test it? It's a very powerful question that will get them to think analytically about their request. If their ideas are clear, they will have easy answers to that question. If, on the other hand, they hesitate, then they're not clear about what they're asking for. The lack of detail is brought to light, and there is then the opportunity to further refine the requested feature and the underlying needs of it. In practice, this can be done by taking advantage of a concept known as acceptance testing benefits. In other words, first we develop a set of acceptance criteria based on the definition from the customer, the business, and even our testers. Those criteria should fail at the beginning once we start testing and producing code. Developers will iterate over the code, developing the actual feature and creating tests for it. And then once that is done, the acceptance criteria test should all pass. If that's not the case, then we go back to the developers until the acceptance criteria test pass with flying colors, essentially. This is also known as behavioral-driven development. And at the end of each cycle, the specification is reviewed and refined, essentially. In the end, if you don't test your software, someone else will. And you don't want that someone else to be your customer. Testing is not only about finding bugs or issues with the code. It's a way to constantly improve your code, your processes, your approaches to finding a solution. It is the mindset change that we were talking about before. Every team and company is different. There isn't any single strategy that works for everyone. It is an area in which we have to constantly adapt and make changes. So that's it. Thank you for watching. That's the video. If you liked it, feel free to like, share, and subscribe to the channel to find more content like this. See you around.